But yeah, let's kick things off. And thank you all for coming. I'm flattered. It's like 9 p.m. here in London, and I'm honored that like people are coming during the workday. Okay, cool. So this session for OGC is how to create opportunity without the cringe, which I know that part, the cringe, resonated with a lot of you, including myself. So we'll be talking about, I'll give a little intro about myself. We'll talk about what is outreach, how it can be helpful for you, specifically on LinkedIn. We'll talk about the cringe, what that is, and how we can get rid of the ick and make it more effortless, make it more you, make it more real. Some of the common mistakes that I see with outreach, some quick tips, things that you could do, actionable things that you could do right now, and two of my favorite tools that I use. And I'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end. Okay. And also feel free to leave things in the chat. It's going to be a little bit interactive. You're not going to have to be on video if you don't want to be. You can be. But I might ask you a few questions and feel free to respond in the chat and a bit of reflection. Okay. So I haven't met a bunch of you. So let me introduce myself. First of all, my name is Sarah, Sarah Ing. It's a verb. And I'm a little bit of a weirdo. Like, I have always loved strangers. I did my master's dissertation on how to build trust between strangers online. I founded the Slow Friendship Project. You can see it to the right. These are a bunch of strangers that just emailed me and were like, hey, we heard about this project. Like, we want to be a part of it. And people would come over for potlucks. And what we would do is we would talk about things that the idea of like fast food, this was the opposite of that. So like slow friendship where you could connect over like deeper conversation, more than just the weather, more than just like, what do you do for a living? And that was super fun. We ended up collaborating with Creative Mornings and getting a couple hundred people on our mailing list and pre-COVID times. And then also I road tripped from Oregon to Texas with a stranger from Craigslist. I'd posted on rideshare. And then I also, at the time, before Airbnb, there was couchsurfing.org. And I stayed in Utah with a stranger. And then I stayed at a Texas frat house. Like, I've always put a lot of trust in strangers and had a lot of interest in ways to connect with people, originating with online. Yes, in hindsight, totally afraid of murder. I wouldn't allow my kids to do that. So career, like, what does that look like? A weirdo who loves strangers. And let me tell you how that has impacted me. So I'm a career changer. I started off as an English major. I really love books. I love writing. And I switched to spending over a decade in tech as a software engineer, as a founder, as an engineering manager. And I got that chance because of outreach. I wrote to someone and they took a chance on me and they made a job position. In my past life, I've also been a VC-backed founder. I've been a writer in Australia, interviewing like Olympians as part of Circus Soleil. And I was a dumpling maker on a food truck in the UK. I went to music festivals. So I think I counted, I've done like 20 different jobs of all sorts of things. I worked at a scuba dive resort. And currently, what I do is I'm a solopreneur. So my business is called Start with Hello. And I coach women in tech who want to fall back in love with their career. And I also do some consulting with tech organizations as well on building heart-based community. And just a note on this about outreach is that I started my company part-time 3 years ago. I went full-time on it last year in October, and I just hit my first 5-figure month. And so much of it was based on outreach, which is why I wanted to do this talk and why I think it's so important for all of us to learn this skill and also how to do it like in your own way. But just to give you some context, like about 33%, so a third of my one-on-one clients come from LinkedIn. And my most recent consulting client came from responding to a LinkedIn post. And then I left her a voice note. And that's how I got the opportunity. Okay. So here, people are already responding in the chat, which is so great. Thank you for doing that. I love interaction with this stuff. I want to turn this over to you. What kind of opportunity do you want to create? So, with showing up, like, what did you have in mind? Or is blue sky's the limit? Like, what is it that you want to create? Because this talk is about how to create opportunity through LinkedIn without the cringe.
Hi,
Yeah.
my name is Jessica.
Oh,
Should I just jump in?
actually, if you could do it in the chats, just so I want to be
The chat.
mindful
Okay.
of so much content. But it's nice to meet you,
Okay.
Jessica. Yeah, and I can read them out loud too. So, full-time job and contract work, true connection and career serendipity in the midst of a career change, looking for someone, whoa, it scrolls, looking for someone to take a chance on me in a new industry. Gabriella, career transition, break into a career I might not have direct experience. Kaylee, I just actually want to talk to people and hear their origin stories so I know what's out there. Yes, sometimes I don't have an ask, but I know that makes people feel weird too. Great, we're going to talk about that. Growing my group coaching program. Yes, been there, helping startup managers, starting a consulting company. Awesome. Okay, wow. We're going to be here all night. This is so great. And then Jessica, I'll look out for your answer too. Looking for a new full-time job. Yeah, all of this. Okay. Oh, build client roster. Cool. Okay. Thank you for throwing that in there. So, outreach, simply put, is reaching out to others. It's nothing more, nothing less. Like that's what it is. It can sound scary. How outreach can help you. So, the opportunities that can create. One is like getting more information. So, learning about an industry, how someone built their business. It could also be talking to a company, talking to a current employee about, like, hey, what is this company like to work for? Or what is this role like? I work with people who are like, maybe, for instance, like considering a pivot to chief of staff and finding out information about that kind of thing. All right. It can also be a chance. I just noticed that typo. Getting your foot in the door and landing a job opportunity, like so many of you that have just posted about getting that experience and connecting with someone to get that person to take a chance on you and have that conversation. Growing your business, so attracting clients and collaborations and building your client roster, as Whitney said, all of those things. And Jessica, yeah, number one, like getting more information, looking for a new role, and how to best outreach to people that with the companies that you're interested in. Okay, I have a couple more. So also creating projects, like finding interesting people to create with. So when I built the Slow Friendship project, that was actually with someone that I met online, and we just decided, let's build something and see who will come. And the last one is making friends. So I know we can be so career focused, including myself, but here's something that I wrote like 9 years ago. You can see I'm not very conventional sometimes with my outreach. This was by email, but I wrote like, "Hi Cindy, I loved her blog," and I wrote, "Hi Cindy, so your blog made me just about throw up in a good way. A good way? Yikes. Okay, let me start over." And she matched me, like fellow weirdo. She said, like, your email hands down was one of the best I've gotten all year. It makes me want to throw up too, in a good way. I think we'd get along really well. And we ended up meeting in person after that. And we pen palled for a really long time. And it was someone I hadn't met before, just saw on the internet. In this talk, we'll be focusing on LinkedIn, but I want you to bear in mind that there are like so many other ways to do outreach. There's email, there's Slack workspaces, as we know with OGC. There's message boards like Reddit, like Alpha. There's conferences, there's events, other social media platforms, and there's saying hello in person. So LinkedIn is a really powerful one because not a lot of people are producing a lot of content. I know like Molly has talked about this. It's really powerful in that sense, but there are so many other ways that you can show up. Okay, I want to hear from you. Like, cue the cringe. What makes outreach feel so cringy? And what was the draw of like making it not feel that way? Yeah, it feels so transactional because we've all gotten so many cringy messages before. Yeah, so having experienced that and been on the receiving end of that. I know someone also mentioned the possibility of people not answering, not responding. Everyone thinks I'm only reaching out to get a job when most of the time I'm really trying to build longer term connections. Truly. Yeah, like having this agenda. Response rate is low. Okay, great. We can talk about some things. I have a tip on how to get a better response rate. So, especially if we have connections or friends in common, fear of being judged. Yeah, when people just don't respond, asking for things is hard in general. Yeah, feeling too salesy. Okay, I hear you. Like, I want you to know, like, one of the biggest things is that you're not alone. So much so that, like, I made a slide and everything that you're saying is like something that I've heard before many times. Like, talking to someone I don't know. I should be prepared and know everything already. Not knowing what to say or how to keep the convo going. Writing generic salesy messages to the masses is what it feels like. And especially knowing when you receive those messages yourself. Another thing that I hear, putting myself out there and not getting responses. The other person could not respond, or even worse, be like snarky, be mean about it. And the vulnerability of asking for something. So here's what I propose to you to get rid of the ick is play to who you are. And we're going to talk about how to do that. But just for some context, like of playing to who you are, different kinds of outreach will resonate with you more than others. Like that's just natural. For me, like I used to work at Liberty Mutual, big company, very corporate, very not me. It was business casual, couldn't do business formal. But we would have these monthly gatherings where it would be a breakfast meeting and we'd have to socialize for like half an hour beforehand. And like my biggest thing is if it's a room of strangers and we have to stand up and I don't know where to put my hands, like I can't do it. I would actually take my bagel and hide in the bathroom for that 30 minutes. And then I would take my seat in the auditorium later. It just wasn't my thing. And even big conferences, you will see me like on the outskirts trying to like have a deep conversation, fellow introverts, with someone like that's not who I am. That's not the kind of outreach that I do. It's not my strength. And I'm someone who's really good at outreach. So my strength is one-on-one and developing fast rapport. And that's okay if it's different for you. What I want to reinforce here is that you just know that you don't have to do it the way everybody else does. Okay. So to the point of being authentic, I want to ask you, how would your friends describe you? And share in three adjectives. And I'll share mine in a little bit, but I'd love to hear when you think about it, what would your friends say? Yeah, I love these. Authentic, go getter, personable, dedicated, sensitive, passionate, caring, curious, funny. I bet you are funny, Carrie. Thoughtful, empathetic, honest, welcoming, optimistic, driven, smart, funny, caring. I'm sure all of you are super, super smart and resourceful. Like you're here, you're part of OGC. Dot connector. Oh, that's a cool one. People person, empathetic. Okay. These are my friends. You can see that sign, but let me tell you the story behind this. So I got COVID. What was it? I think 2 years ago. I'm not sure if it's the first or second time, but anyway, I was at my parents' house. It was Thanksgiving, and my friends, my three best friends, came outside the window, and in like Love Actually style, they held up signs and said things, such nice things. They described me as like, "You're so," well, they said weird, but I prefer quirky as more endearing. Weird, warm, and thoughtful, like we really miss you. And then this was the last one that I had. They had just had to end it on like a different note. But this is how my friends would describe me, like quirky, warm, and thoughtful. And for you, think of those adjectives that you just put out there, like resourceful, creative, curious is what I'm seeing for Linda. Like this is your voice. It may vary with context, meaning like who you talk to, but at the heart of it, this is how you show up. This is how you express yourself. This is the foundation of how you talk to people, especially your friends who you connect with. And there's no facade. It's like how how you connect and how you show up with those people. So keeping that in mind, and we'll circle back to it later, that's the tone of your voice. And lean on that when you're thinking about, I want to be empathetic. Sorry, I just read the word empathetic. When you want to be authentic. For Tara, it's silly, empathetic, resilient. Okay, so what I propose is think about these questions. How do you want to communicate with others on LinkedIn? So there are a couple of options here. Is written, like you can write a post, you can respond to a comment. So written form, there's voice, and voice for those unfamiliar is you can send voice notes. I lean into this pretty heavily. Is when you download the LinkedIn app, then you can have a chance to the interface is a little wonky, but then you can send notes to people. And then the other option is video. You can post videos with your posts. You can also do events and you can stream things. Yeah. So I just see in the chat. I really recommend voice notes. In this example, actually. So this is someone who reached out to me after reading one of my posts. And then I sent a voice note because one, I just get really lazy at the end of the day and I don't want to type anymore. So it's just a swipe. I believe it's only for a minute that you can send. So it's short and sweet, which is great. And she responded back and was like, whoa, I didn't know LinkedIn could do this. This is really awesome to hear your voice. And it just made the connection feel so much more real. Like I could hear her intonation and when she got excited about things. And then we ended up having a conversation and it continued with voice. Another question for you is on LinkedIn, where do you want to communicate? So here are your options. It can be DMs, so one-on-one messaging with people. It can be commenting on posts. It can be creating your own content. That could be posts that you write. It could also be LinkedIn audio events. It could be, you could use StreamYard and you could have live events as well. Or you could do a mixture of all of these. To be honest, for me, I lean pretty heavily on writing my own posts, some DMs, and I like commenting. I just had a listen to a talk by Jasmine, I believe. He's known for like having all these followers for commenting. It is one way, and I'm going to show you an example actually of commenting. Oh yeah, and just a note in the comments about like I still haven't fully gotten on the voice note bandwagon is something that Winnie just said. Like you don't have to. It's one way that is unique and a lot of people haven't heard about doing it. But play to like your comfort level. It's just another avenue, another tool that you could use. So this is an example of creating opportunity in the comments. This is Boomy. I actually haven't met her in person. We connected through outreach. She messaged me on a different Slack channel, and she's building her own business. And she commented on my post, and right above her was another woman who is also building her own business around public speaking. And so I connected them, but it was really like because Boomy had responded that she was like top of mind. And then because of that, they could like give referrals to each other and give insights about how they're building their business. So just to all that to say is use the comments to your advantage of it doesn't have to be like the perfect comment, but it can be something supportive or just it makes you more top of mind. Okay. So the cringe. What we're going to go through is the main cringes that I hear with outreach and suggestions for like how we can alleviate some of that cringe. So writing generic salesy messages to the masses. Clearly, like from the chat and from our own experiences, we know when something is salesy or AI has written it, and this is just another message that's being sent out to like 100 other people. It doesn't work. So remember to use your voice and think about those adjectives that are used to describe you and think about how you want to show up. Lean into that because that's like your special formula of what makes you you and why people are friends with you. So for me, like I'm always going to lean into quirky. One, because I don't know how to do it differently. I'm going to play Mary J. Blige at the beginning, and it makes you more intriguing and interesting as a person because that's really who you are. So right as you. So putting yourself out there and not getting responses, they could not respond, or even worse, be snarky or dismissive. Um, they could judge you. I would like you to ask yourself. So I do this with clients of thinking about what the worst could happen. It's called post-morteming of it's very morbid, but like imagining the death or the failure. And it makes it less scary because then you realize, okay, what it this is the worst that could happen. How do I prepare for that? Or maybe it's not as bad as I'm thinking. So ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen? What is it that I'm scared of and why? And how do I want to show up? And I would say, start small, message two people, message one person. What I see a lot is a fear of, I don't know how other people are going to react, or I need this to be the perfect message, or I need to talk to all of these people. Like, start small, send one message that's an MVP and be honest about it. Say, if it makes you feel more comfortable, and people like this type of vulnerability, like, I don't do this often, but I wanted to say hello. People love that. Not knowing what to say or how to keep the combo going. I definitely saw this come up. So be genuinely curious. Not like I'm keeping this going just to keep it going and asking things that you don't want to know about, but you're reaching out to this person and you want to know something. So questions are your friend here. Things like what made you choose your current role? How did you decide to start this project that you're working on? What's it like to live in this city in Seattle? It's okay if it doesn't lead to like this magic opportunity right now. Like part of outreach is that it's a longer game sometimes. I've talked to people like months ago, literally someone actually 6 months ago, and then they just emailed me with an opportunity. So know that it doesn't always go to your timeline or your expectations, but your expectation should be to have this kind of long game in mind and and to have genuine curiosity about someone. I should be prepared and know everything already. So researching a lot about the company, about the role. One way to alleviate this is one, you're reaching out to them for a reason, for information. Be honest with them. Like I say, I'm new to this and I'd love to learn more about X. You don't have to be the expert because otherwise you wouldn't need to talk to them. So for to some extent, do some homework about like maybe how long they've been in the role. It depends on the context. Do a little bit of due diligence enough to show that you care and you're not just talking to anybody. But know that you don't have to spend like hours preparing on what to say. And talking to someone you don't know. I'm sure you all know this already, but it can be scary to talk to someone and you're reaching out over the internet. It's a little bit awkward. What I would say is find something that you have in common because they're also human. They have also reached out to people before and know what that's like. They've also been in your position where you're trying to grow your business or try to make befriend someone, have like deeper conversations, connections with people, or they've also, I mean, we've all job searched at one point, so we all know what that feels like. I would search for little breadcrumbs on their profile for something that you have in common. So, for example, on my profile, I mean, I put a lot of personality on there. I love chocolate hazelnut bars. I also talk about how I'm certified in scuba diving. If there's something there that resonates with you, it doesn't need to be something flashy like that, but find that. Find something in common that, or find something that interests you and talk about that. And remember how it is to have someone reach out to you. Not the spammy ones, but like the people who you're like, "Oh, I'm so glad that they reached out to me and I'm flattered that they reached out. They want to hear my opinion about this." So, remember that being on the other end. Okay, I have nothing to offer them. I'm taking up their time. Be mindful of other people's time. What I suggest is like offering a 15, 30-minute coffee and thanking them afterwards. I'll put, there's going to be more on this. There's a checklist of like things that you should think about. But here's a suggestion of the coffee. And then remember that people can make their own choices, and oftentimes they're happy to help if they can. So no, it's their decision. And if they're saying yes, you're not a burden. They're they're making that decision and they want to talk to you. And you don't need to offer anything. And oftentimes also people helping is and getting that satisfaction is a reward in itself. Okay, let's move on to common mistakes. Not reaching out at all. So inaction, feeling stuck, beating yourself up about it, thinking I should do this. Other people are outreaching. Look how good they are at it. The inaction of not reaching out at all is the biggest mistake because that's doing ultimately you a disservice. Going straight to how they can help you. So I see this a lot. And I see this also as being on the receiving end of this is you want to connect with someone and talk about why personally you're interested in them and instead of like being demanding. Not that any of you would be demanding, but going straight into like I really need this is one way to not get uh to not have it be so well received. Okay, being unclear on what you want. I see this one quite a lot as well. Of some people will say, "I want mentorship," or "Tell me about this." It's really helpful if you can have a specific ask. So then people know like what the time constraints are around this, what you're looking for, whether they can be helpful on it. Ask yourself like what the opportunity is, as we did in the previous exercise, or just write a sentence of like, what would the best outcome be of this? What is it that you want? Okay, writing a novel. So another thing is be mindful of people's time and also their attention span, more importantly. And I would keep it to 3 to 5 sentences at most of your outreach, maybe shorter. I would start it off as like connecting with them and probably having something that, I mean, in my case, it would be like more punchy and more quirky. But what I would say is like connect with them as a person, talk a little bit about your background or why you're connecting with them, and then your ask at the end. So that's 3 sentences. And then leaving a call to action. So that's a common mistake of not having one at all. Something you could do is say, "Hey, could if you have time, could we do a 15-minute virtual coffee this week? I would really appreciate it." Or maybe you're asking for a reference, maybe it's something else. Could you look at this landing page? So providing something where they don't have to go through the thought process of how they can help. If you're really clear about it, then they know what they are potentially committing to. Here's a tip for you. So on LinkedIn, when you go to someone's profile, under the More section, there is the connect sign. And what I would suggest is adding a note to your invitation. I think it's pretty short. Maybe it's like 300 characters or so. It's longer than that, but a couple sentences. So that format of three sentences still fits nicely. I would send a note in there because one, it reduces the waiting time for I have to send a request and then they have to accept it. And then I have to start a message. Like one, that takes too long. And two, the likelihood that they're going to then respond after the message reduces. And then also, if you send a note in your invitation, it's more likely that they'll accept right off the bat because then they'll know your intention. You're not just a random person, or even if you are, you have an intention behind it. Okay, another tip. This is from Lana, a fellow OGCer, is write your comments with your audience in mind. So this is something that Lana wrote on one of my posts. And the thing you want to remember is that the person who posted it is one person of many that's reading. Like you all see your LinkedIn feeds and you're going to see other people's comments. And so it reads not just to the poster, but to everybody else. So think about who your audience is, who you want to read that. Like, even if you're searching for a job, you can write comments about how you show up at work or interesting thoughts about something in the industry. Or if you're growing your business, the type of work that you do, your expertise in it. This is really a chance for you to make yourself more visible and contribute in a way which isn't as formal as writing a post. It's mini posts really, but it's giving insights that show up just as much on feeds. And this is Jory, also part of OGC. You probably are familiar with her, is make your header stand out. So I call this like our billboard. You have a chance to put whatever you want on there. It doesn't need to be about a business offering. It could just be about your personality. It could be about whatever you're working on. You could say, like, I really want to talk to product managers. Um, like, here's my email. And so this is an example of how you can do it. In this case, and in mine, if you look at my profile, you can make a header, Google like LinkedIn banner, and you can make one in Canva really easily for free. Another thing is, if you see Jory's headline, you want to tell people who you are right off the bat. And so then they don't have to like go through your whole profile. They know what you do, what you care about. In Jory's case, it's referring to like products and her coaching businesses and consulting. But it doesn't always need to be that case. Like I talk about chocolate hazelnut bars and I don't know, I think I something else in there. And you could put whatever you want, but just know that this will stand out and be. And also, when people read comments or wherever you show up on LinkedIn feed, like they're going to see that. So, so this is your chance to put your best foot forward and get some easy advertisement. Okay, two tools that I want to recommend is this is a little bit outside of the LinkedIn realm, but Async is a voice note. It's a free voice note platform. So you can record something on the browser, then you copy the link and you can just send it to people. Sometimes, if you want to send something that's longer than a minute, you can send it on LinkedIn. I also send it in emails. And another thing, if you want to take a conversation from LinkedIn and you want to move it to email, or somebody doesn't have LinkedIn, which is all very well and fair, you can use something like email verifier. So if you Google email verifier, there are a number of them that come up for free. And what you would do is search like, usually it's the format is first name, last name, then at company.com or first name or first initial dot last name at company. And there are different permutations of it, but this is a good way to say, okay, is my email going to be received? Like, is this their real email? So this is a way to check. Okay, we're almost at the end of the talk. And I want to know, what was the most helpful takeaway so far? Yay, voice notes and chat on LinkedIn. Also, Linda, I got a direct message from you. Is it okay if I read that question out later? Let me know in the chat. Carrie, I love changing how I think about it. Voice memos, comments on posts. Great. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be a message. Okay, thanks, Linda. Yeah. Yes, our written voice should also sound like us. Cool, the postmortem. I'm glad you picked up on that. Permission to talk like yourself and not like a sales wonk. Wonk. Yeah. Okay, great. And we can also do a session in the future about talking in your own voice. I used to be a writing coach, so if that's helpful, let me know as well. You can put that in, propose a session in OGC. Okay, so my challenge to you is to reach out to 2 people this week and tell me how it goes. You can message me on OGC. I'll also put a number of ways to contact me later. But I would love to hear how it goes, who you decide to reach out to, and what the message is. I'm going to put these slides in the events channel afterwards, as well as the recording. But here's a checklist, and this is going to be, okay, have we thought about who we want to reach? Like, do we have a call to action? The things that we've talked about here to make sure that you've thought about them ahead of time, and it's all in there. And then I just want to shout out, I just started a group coaching program. So usually I do one-on-one coaching as well as consulting, but I'm really excited about this program. It starts in April and it's for women in tech who want to rediscover joy in their career. And I'm giving a $500 off discount for if you mention OGC. And I'll put that link in, or it's on the slides. So please look there and then I'll actually have a follow-up message too in our events. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening. This was my first OGC session, and I really appreciate all of you being so interactive. That was really fun and appreciate it. Okay, and you can find me on LinkedIn and see how I do outreach, my personal style, and reach out to me on email or I'm on the Slack channel.